This session topic is PLC Reboot, Understanding School Culture for an Effective PLC. And I will start here by a quote. The most valuable resource that all teachers have is each other. Without collaboration, our growth is limited to our own perspective. Let's move to the outcome of this session. Leader will gain knowledge and practical skills to support a reboot of PLC within their schools through a focus on school culture. Agenda of this presentation will start by connection activity, and this will be followed by 3 sections that each address one of our learning out goals. Number 1, leaders will examine common challenges that PLC face and reflect on specific experience within their schools. Number 2, leaders will develop an understanding of the keys to establishing and maintaining an effective PLC culture at their schools. Number 3, leaders will develop an initial stage PLC reboot 3 months plan. Finally, we will have a brief moment for next steps where we will do a quick closing activity at the end. But today we will cover maybe only the first and second of these goals. So let's start by the connection activity. This activity is a very good activity for PLC, and I am using it as a warm-up. It brings teams together. Basically, you create a poster that describes the PLT, the years of experience everyone taught, and we have as a team worked or taught in how many schools, degrees and subjects that we taught, and what strength we bring to PLC. Many PLCs dive straight into data and lesson planning, but this activity helps to start with a team building and trust building in the collaborative groups. Trust matters before the content and data or planning interventions. If you kick off your school year by illustrating how much all your staff brings to the table for your PLC, it will really help the PLC have a good start. I usually hang the posters on the hallways for Meet the Teachers Night, and then I move it later on to the PLC room. This is an example here of how it looks like. And you can start by this activity. We have 152 years of experience. So this is a good example and a good activity to start with. Now, since we talked about trust, and I want to start the session talking about trust because that's very important. This is a roadmap to earn trust. And I put it there because leaders need to be aware that creation of collaborative culture takes time. And you cannot only depend on the competence. You need also to have the character. Like I need to believe in your skill, and in the same time, I believe that you will have my back as a person. So like I said here, trust brings collaboration versus distrust brings fear and isolation. Let's move to the first goal we have, learning goal 1. Leaders will examine common challenges that PLCs face and reflect on a specific experience within their schools. So what challenges are PLC facing? That's a brainstorm activity here. Think of causes for lack of PLC impact despite its promise. What might cause blocks for those aspiration or that impact? So, in my opinion, I think sometimes there are lack of norms, protocols, too many definitions. It makes people confused about the goal. But most importantly, I think that a toxic culture is a graveyard for an education reform. It was once said, culture eats structure for breakfast. So, and I think this would be our focus today, talking about the culture. So let's see what the studies say. Before we talked about our opinions, now this study says there's 5 common challenges for PLCs. Number 1, incoherence, insularity, unequal participation, congeniality, and privacy. What do we mean by each one of them? Number 1, incoherence. There are less time given to reflection and to visit past discussions. Insularity. Number 2, groups develop or think over time, so no new inputs, same solutions are being provided. Number 3, equal participation in our school or our classrooms. Teachers always want to this to happen, to equalize and maximize student participation, because students who participate achieve deeper learning. The same also true when we work with colleagues. PLCs succeed when all members participate. Number 4, when we talk about congeniality, which is culture of niceness. You know, it sometimes can limit honesty and constructive feedback. The last one, privacy. We need to deprivatize the practice. There are independent, there are teachers that think that this practice is independent. They operate it as a private practice on their own, as if it's like a doctor clinic or, or a lawyer or some kind of any private field. The question here for the participant, do any of these resonate with the causes for lack of PLC impact we share with the previous slide? We have a slide here. We talked about the items that we discussed here. We talked about the toxic culture. And also here we have the 5 challenges. So think about this question. You can pause the video and start to think about the video, about these 5 challenges for PLC. Next, whenever you think about changes, there are 2 types of changes: technical change and cultural changes. Technical changes in learning and structures, such as developing common assessment and interpreting data, utilizing education and technology. Most people agree that this is one important element that comes with any new initiative, procedures, policies that we want to. But the cultural thing, the unwritten rules, or sometimes written, but the cultural that drives the place. And when we talk about culture, we need to talk about adaptive leadership. Adaptive change is a change that requires new learning for problem definition and solution implementation. And when you do change in culture, you need to make sure that you are backed by your superiors, because you are going against the norms of the organization. As I said, culture will be the focus of our presentation today. Let me talk to you and ask you, what's the difference between culture, school culture, and school climate? Because a lot of people mix this up. Climate is about the feelings or the mood, versus culture about the behavior and personality. Culture is how to behave, written and unwritten. Culture is the beliefs and priorities that drive the thoughts and action of the people. It's how we act, how we think, personality and lifestyle sometimes being called in this organization, like you will see in some faith-based schools, you will see they say they call each other brother, sister, and so it's different. Every school is different in its culture. And but what about the climate? Climate is the vibe, the feelings, and the mood. And when you say, "Wow, this place has an amazing energy," it feels like everyone is scared, you know. And we do a lot of things to improve the climate of the schools. Like, you know, sometimes we do ice cream days and jeans days and all this. But can this change the culture? Over time, small things or small changes can change the culture. But definitely there is a school culture that, whether you intend or no, it will be formed. So it's better that you try to frame it and plan it. Now, if we went back to the slide of 5 common challenges, we want to check which of these challenges are technical and which of them are cultural. So let's walk through them. Incoherence. Incoherence, we described it as less time is given to reflection or revisit past discussions. What do you think? Technical or cultural? Insularity. It's group things develop over time. No new input, same solutions. Again, cultural or technical? Cultural of niceness and not trying to trying to be honest, not to try to be honest, I guess. You know, like I give you what we say politics, you know, I only focus on the positive things without saying what is needed to be said. I am thinking that this is mostly culture. Anyway, they privatize the practice. Teacher independence. Is this sounds more of a culture too? Teacher close the door in its class and work, and they're completely isolated, and you know, she has her own school inside the school. Let's talk about here a good question. When you reflect on your performance in implementing PLC for the first time, what could you have done to prepare yourself for the role of leading PLC at your school? We always hear sometimes what you tell yourself if you are, you know, when you are 19 years old. So I think, number one, if I reflected on my own performance and I applied PLC in one of the most, how would I describe it? I applied PLC in places that never heard of the term PLC, ever. And I'll keep it this way. So, number one, I would be more accessible, spend more time in the classrooms. Number two, resourceful. Like I have being familiar with best practices in instruction. For PLC, I would start with Solution Tree website, learning by doing book. I will also stress that knowing the name of all the students and staff helps a lot, especially with data, and relationships matters also. Because there will be times that when your staff and teachers will need you to listen to their needs and provide encouragement and support. So we need to start slow and easy. This is what I would tell myself. How can you make your school culture ready to implement PLCs? Let's ask the question in another way. What do administration and teachers need to say no if they say yes to PLC? In education, we have too many initiatives. Many of them are great, but it's, imagine yourself as a teacher adding more load on you, stress, and things that you didn't buy in or you think it's a waste of time. So I would personally think about these questions. Do I need to reduce meetings, reduce external PD, having long observations versus short walkthroughs? Do I need to have new hires or ask for more volunteers when I start PLC? How am I planning to celebrate the small wins and achievements of PLC? Again, do I rely more on formative, and this means that I reduce a little bit of summative? I will give you a practical example that actually happened with me. Teachers complained about protecting their planning time. PLC is a planning time by itself. So, but I didn't tell them this fact in the beginning. I listened to them, and I had to create a separate schedule for PLC day, and classes are covered by support staff. Teachers were grateful, and they didn't have to give up their time or their planning time for PLC. Next item in the agenda, which is our learning goal 2. Teacher will develop an understanding of the keys to establishing and maintaining an effective PLC culture at their schools. How can I tell if our school culture is conducive to PLCs? We have just discussed how most of the common challenges of PLC are actually cultural and may not be all of them technicals. There are, like I said, technical is very important, but cultural are the cause, and we're gonna learn that now. So first, we need to check our soil. Is our school culture conducive for change? These are key ingredients to mobilize, engage, and execute on strategy. How to manage complex change. You need to have a vision, skills, incentive, resources, and action plan. Without all these ingredients, even most well-intentioned projects fail to mobilize teams, employ or engage employees, and execute on strategy. But how can we speed up change? That's a very important question. Sometimes leaders put us on time limits in school districts. And I think, number one, listen to the concerns of the people who will apply the change. Like I listened to the teachers about their protecting their planning time. They feel that like they are losing something or can't cope with change. Imagine any of us buying a new phone or a laptop. What is the first thing you do? You say, oh, my previous laptop was much easier. And or my previous, I could navigate my phone easier. It takes time. So you need to provide clarity and certainty. You hear from their point of view. It's clear from your point of view everything what's need to be done, but you need to hear from their point of view. Demonstrate what's in it for each person. Like, you are giving me all this work and, like extra work for me, and there is no any incentives. What is the benefit for each person? I want you to make the status quo goals less appealing by providing consequences for not doing the change. make people part of the story. Draw people into it by giving them a role. I want you to know that 2/3 of the people are controlled by emotions. So you need to slow down and take time to adopt, adapt, then improve. So answer the question. Slow down is the best way to speed up. And let me show you something. I think I may need to stand for this. I want you to fold your arm like this. And then fold it the other way around. Please do that. And then fold it any way you like. I think you will see yourself now going back to the first way you folded your arm, because it is what you used to. So change is not easy and takes time. Let's move to the next slide. I will end the first session with this slide. If we talked about school culture and the PLC structure, you will find the foundation of the PLC structure are what? Shared purpose, shared vision, shared commitment, shared goals. All of them are culture. All of them. This is why it is the most important for us to focus on investigating cultural changes. Thank you so much, and see you later. Bye.